Charlie, the day is here. The day we have been waiting for is here. Enzo Maresca's coronation, arrival, and first ever Champions League game for himself as a manager and also for Chelsea Football Club is here. And a big one. And Dortmund B, Benfica B, Karabakh B. It is a big match day one game away at the Allianz Arena in Germany against Bayern Munich. Team I started season win has been firing, but even more so in the history of the Champions League, one of the best teams in there. In fact, Saudi Champions League in Commona, you can't do it without seeing your friend FC Bayern Munich. Can Chelsea go to the Allianz Arena and then accept Bayern Munich? We'll talk about all of that into detail. I say on Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. Thank you very much for choosing that. So I won't subscribe to the channel now. Subscribe, turn on notification. In the notification turn do choose all just so anytime there's content, you are first to have it. Oh, yeah, investors so there, then you know. Yesterday we won big, we'll win again. Go to the description of the video. The codes for today are right there for you. Pick them up and then go and stick and give yourself a big chance at winning something. Of course, away from that, make sure we'll say thank you to the two people who have made it show a possibility. First, Yesumo Spare Parts Dealership Shop. So your spare parts in Korea. Then in this country, the best plug for you, hey Yesumo, may plug out to the best place. Or Aboso kind post office or Accra. With me, call. If you are not in Accra, you are far from there. Call him on 059-313-8221. Take the number again, 059-313-8221. He'll take care of you. Of course, go to MOB Clothing, upper shirts, upper tops. You want to look clean, the best apparel shop, El Chroma saying AMOB Clothing. Contact them today. No more show, come. Omo to do a flower station, to do a hot on. If you want to reach out to MOB Clothing, I mean, you are not there wholesaling or retailing, just call them on 0200 668-708, 0200 668-708. Go there, let them take very, very good care of you. Charlie, I think that this match is arguably the biggest match in match day one because Oshe Madrid versus Marseille, Oshe Juve versus Dortmund. All of these games, none of them is on the level of Chelsea playing against Bayern Munich or Champions League game in match day one. It is a huge game for Enzo Maresca and Manti, and it's a huge game for almost everybody going into this one. And Chelsea if only expect to go in and then win the game. You see, when you talk about the Champions League, Bayern have an upper hand over Chelsea. In fact, when you look at the head-to-head comparing Chelsea to Bayern Munich in the last few years, Bayern have been very successful. The last time at Chelsea, any Bayern share in the Champions League was in 2020-2021 season. It was under Hansi-Dieter Flick. Now, in that game, Hansi-Dieter Flick bought Chelsea home and away 7-1. Or they can share 4-1 or Allianz Arena. No, but share 3-0. Of course, it was a Chelsea team under Frank James Lampard with a lot of inexperience. Now, before them, the first time Chelsea met, Chelsea have won in regulation time just once against Bayern. So it tells you that even in terms of the pedigree, the history, and all of those things, Bayern are neck and shoulders ahead of Football Club Chelsea. I mean, the big one that they are going to play or the Allianz Arena. And so that is why, and if you go to Opta, they have given the advantage, say Bayern are going to win this one in terms of history, in terms of the games that Bayern have played. Opta say Bayern 54.9% and Chelsea 23% to beat team and friend FC Bayern Munich. Again, we'll talk about the head-to-head in details, possible lineup, what Chelsea wants to do, the absentees, Bayern plan. We'll talk about all of them. And these are two solid managers. Vincent Kompany, since he took over Bayern, has been playing in an interesting style OOP, the out of possession shape. What he uses is essentially the man-to-man press across the field of play. Now, Vincent consistently presses. Now, there are not times, and again, you saw it against Paris Saint-Germain. Time of Paris Saint-Germain, any Bayern for boy in the Club World Cup, no, it was almost there. And then, you know, it makes Bayern games, you know, very open, and there are a lot of goals in there. Consistently, almost a Bayern for now pressing aggressively, they press man for man, they press high, and they force a lot of turnovers in the area. It's going to be very difficult. What is going to be the plan? One thing that we've seen under Enzo Maresca, and it's in big games, BCC, you know, he almost always has a plan. He almost always has something up his sleeves. He almost always has BBR. It is going to make him surprise everybody in that regard. What is Enzo Maresca going to use to surprise Vincent Kompany in this very, very big one in a game against Bayern Munich in the Champions League at the Allianz Arena? And of course, we delve into all of that details. Of course, see, Bayern this season, Osha games are on my board, the German Bundesliga. Almost every game that Bayern have played, they have gone on to win by 2 goals or more. And it tells you, in the German Bundesliga, they counter press very aggressively, especially on the Allianz Arena. They increase the tempo, they force the turnovers, they force the issue, and then they make sure that they announce themselves as a top team in that regard in terms of ball. Now, one thing that we've seen is that Enzo Maresca in these games tend to use a particular lineup. Now, in that game against Paris Saint-Germain, what Enzo Maresca did was that he went into a back 4. Now, inside back 4, it was a little bit tweaked. It was a little bit iterated from the regular back 4 Enzo Maresca used. So this game, you expected that Maresca will go into the game with Trevor Chalobah on the right-hand side of the defense, Tosin Adrebiayo, Marco Correa, and then, of course, on the right-hand side of right back, we are expecting some most likely is going to be Reece James in that game. That is where Reece James is going to play. Now, if Reece James plays there, what it means is that Reece James will not invert into the middle of the park, or will have Reece James inverting into the middle of the park. But then again, after he inverts, he is going to have another winger on the right-hand side because Rebecca starting lineup against Paris Saint-Germain. What Chelsea did was to make sure that they have somebody inverting. They had Reece James inverting on that day. But then even after the Reece James inversion, what they did was that they were also able to have the width in Malo Gusto. And then in the middle of the park, Reece James put in a lot of effort. They pressed, they counter press, they won the ball from them, and they were able to transit the ball forward. That is exactly what we expect since the game is going to be. So it's going to be Tosin Adrebiayo. I'm expecting to have Trevor Chalobah, Marco Correa, Reece James, Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez. Game in Fiifi. You expected that Palmer will start in that game. On the left-hand side, Chelsea are expecting to have one OOP that's going to be very good. Obekaya, in the game against Paris Saint-Germain, what Chelsea did was that on our left-hand side, they used Abrantia, your friend, Pedro Neto on that left-hand side. Pedro Neto played on the left-hand side, then Pedro Neto did the defensive work on that side. Now, the defensive work of Pedro Neto on that left-hand side was to deal with the hard-working ability of Joshua Kimmich to ping them back because say Joshua Kimmich in your ball, no the banning no push it forward into a back 3 with Jonathan Tamo and a Dio Pamecano. What it means is that it forces Abrantia friend Michael Olise to come inside. And today we're expecting that on that left-hand channel there's going to be a big battle between Marco Correa and Abrantia friend Michael Olise. But because of this, I'm expecting say Enzo Maresca will have Abrantia friend Pedro Neto on the left. Then he will play Malo Gusto on the right. Now, it is because he has still not come to terms with the quality of Abrantia Yefrenon, Esteval Willian in terms of the hard-working ability without the ball. And this is a big game. You need to, concede something. It's important. Makani several times say, when it comes to football, when it comes to big games, when it comes to tactics, you can't have it 100%. Whatever you do, you need to give something away and take something. But it has to be planned to make sure, say, in the 90 minutes, whatever you are losing is less than whatever you are gaining. That is exactly how you win football tactical battles. Now, Obekaya, Enzo Maresca, after the game against Fulham, did mention that if it is about, say, against a low blocker, then you need a number 9 and then Joao Pedro behind him. But if it is about playing in a game like this where it's a big game, it's a stretch game, the team presses man for man, then you can have Joao Pedro as your number 9. And then you have Cole Palmer right in behind him, and then you can have your two wingers. Now, these two wingers are supposed to work very hard. Now, if you look at what will happen with the two wingers today, Chelsea essentially want to have Pedro Neto on the left-hand side, like I said, to deal with the left-hand channel of Bayern, because to deal with the right-hand channel of Bayern, because that is a very, very difficult channel to deal with. Unwo, Abrantia friend Joshua Kimmich in that area, Conrad Lima if he plays an RCM, and of course Abrantia friend Michael Olise. Now these three players can cause a lot of problems. When Bayern push up, there is Abrantia friend Joshua Kimmich who comes to play as part of the back three on the ball, and that pushes Abrantia friend Conrad Lima as the right-sided central midfielder to pin down Abrantia friend Marco Correa. Then you have Michael Olise going inside. What it means is that say Chelsea ain't kita bona. What they have to do is that they have to drop back with Abrantia friend Pedro Neto. But say Chelsea air building up. One of the things that we expect is that Bayern Forum are going to press man for man aggressive from the top. They are going to go bang, 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 especially from the top, and prevent Chelsea from transiting, especially from goal kicks. Now, what Chelsea essentially have to do inside part of the game is to make sure say, at the end of the day, they stay in it as long as possible and use the Paris Saint-Germain plan. Invites the press, waits for the press, baits the press, and that is something that Chelsea most likely has the strength in doing. So, almost building up a future. Bayern for never be pressing aggressive man for man, led by a branch friend Harry Kane. What Chelsea has to do is that Toboas in a bonus. So Toboas in a bonus. So wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. Or Toboas in a bonus. Then you find the channels. Usually it's going to be on the right hand side where Malo Gusto is. Malo Gusto, and that is why Enzo Maresca did not play him against Brentford, because this is going to be a very, very big game for our branch friend Malo Gusto. So it will take him to the left hand side. Now, imagine somewhere around the 20th minute and the 30th minute. Now, Chelsea, if we can share first goal, it tilts the game into the hands of Chelsea. Bayern are going to come more. So Bayern ever more, it means that Chelsea have more space on the ball and the more chances they create. The lineup is clear. Malo Gusto is going to play as a right winger today. You have Cole Palmer as a central attacking midfielder, right ahead of Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo. Of course, the Chelsea building up is going to be a back three, but the Reece James ever invited to come and play as part of Caicedo, Enzo, and Moises and to win the numerical battle on FIFA, because so what's your buying team now? In the middle of the pack, usually they play Alabranti friend Alexander Pavlovich, one of the young, exciting, defensive, not defensive, but then tempo controllers in the world. See, internet FIFA, in police strings, no, what a Alabranti friend Alexander Pavlovich is one of those best players in that regard. So they'll play Pavlovich in the middle of the pack. It's a double pivot with him and our branch friend Conrad Lima as a two midfielders. They expect to say when the game gets tougher, either of Dio Upamecano or Joshua Kimmich will step into midfield. And it is Vincent Kompany's plan of trying to make sure say he makes up for the +1. It will finish one. Now Chelsea's ability in getting a +1 will be to invert with James centrally to come and play next to Caicedo, and then have Enzo Fernandez and our branch friend Cole Palmer. Enzo in the left half space, and then Cole Palmer in the right half space. Then up top there is going to be Joao Pedro. Now, Joao Pedro's job again will be to make sure say constantly he drops the link to play out the ball. And these are very high technical players who can play the game in between the lines from them. And it is Enzo Maresca's plan of coming in. I think that is how Chelsea set up the game. And Bayern for out of possession should be interesting. In fact, to the extent say Bayern for any ball now, baby at the space now, when Chelsea are playing from goal kicks now, in the space between Cole Palmer and the left hand side, baby, I believe Jimmy Giddens actually, but of course, Joao Pedro Neto won about the ball. That is where there's likely going to be space, because, like I said, Bayern are going to press man for man. Harry Kane will press Tosin, who is the player that will try to build up from the back. Then Olise will go and press on Trevor Chalobah. You see, say Luis Diaz ever press Reece James, but the thing is that Luis Diaz press Reece James, and Reece will come into the middle of the pack. Central will invert, so that will leave. There's a lot of space here for either Fernandez to come on, win the ball in that space, lay it off to Pedro, to Abrante friend Malo Gusto, and then go into the channel or Cole Palmer. So it's going to be a lot of rotation, and that's what Chelsea wants. Enzo Maresca wants to buy for the ball with a man-to-man press or a man-for-man press. In that man-for-man press, they are supposed to have solutions to it. And in getting solutions, one of the best things is to have a lot of dynamic room in any bottom where Chelsea players, nobody's static in a certain zone. It's positional play, but then also what Ange Postecoglou describes as the fluid rigidity. Movie centrally, correct, collect, they don't stay at one place and consistently. They'll be able to move by and falling around. Now, one thing that you need to understand our buying team, they say this is one of the best out of possession shapes that I have seen since the season started. Now, if you go and you check Bayern 4 games in the German Bundesliga, because of course that is the only tournaments that they've played in the German Bundesliga, you can see Bayern 4 have a solid they have a solid base on the games that they play, how they play it, when they win the ball. In fact, social more heat maps now, they are the highest pressing team in terms of football in Europe's top 5 leagues. Almost pressing, almost out to possession shape, they are very, very aggressive. In fact, I said that in the semi-final of the Club World Cup, they almost got the better of Paris Saint-Germain. They played a better game than Paris Saint-Germain. They had played very well in the game against Paris Saint-Germain. They had stayed in the game as long as possible, and then they made it difficult for Paris Saint-Germain to win that game. I mean, it took last-minute issues for Paris Saint-Germain to turn the game around and then win some match, or the Club World Cup final that we played, or American. So in the 3 games that Bayern have played in the German Bundesliga, of course, almost Super Cup Germany, almost ball draw against Stuttgart, almost ball Bayern versus Leipzig in the first match of the season. Almost Leipzig 6-0. They press, they turn the ball over, they don't stop, they keep on coming. It's incessant, it's press, counter press, it's aggression, win the ball back, verticality. So Bayern forming a team, as in conform, and I say a straightforward win for Chelsea. No, it's not going to be an easy game. It's going to be quite a difficult game. It's a game where Chelsea would have to keep 100% focus. They would have to go into the game all psyched up, all pumped up, knowing that winning this match puts them on a level that they want to compete. They can compete in the Champions League. You've done it in the Conference League. You've done it to an extent in the English Premier League. Show everybody so big to me the Champions League. Next game, I'm boy in a DFP pokal. Wehen. Some match, winning by 3-2. It was a reduced lineup against Augsburg in the German Bundesliga. Winning game by 3-2. And of course, against Hamburger SCV, almost winning some match by 3-2 also. That area. So, it is not a game where Bayern are easy to play against. Game against Augsburg away from home now. Augsburg for the ball in a back 3, and it was an aggressive back 3. But Bayern did well in terms of picking them out. In fact, the midfield, Bayern started with Konrad Laimer at fullback, at right back, about Dayo Upamecano, about Jonathan Tah, about Stanisic, about Leon Goretzka, and Joshua Kimmich in the middle of the pack as a CM, about Serge Gnabry in there as a number 10, about Luis Diaz, Michael Olise, and our brand friend Harry Kane constantly move. So it's a front 4 of Serge Gnabry, Luis Diaz, and our brand friend Michael Olise. So the 2 of them stretching play from the wide areas. Then Serge Gnabry in between the half spaces, making sure Obama gave Ayedin Amobia, because consistently he doesn't stop coming. He presses and counter presses very, very well, and then finds the ball in the tight spaces when you play against them. So it makes the games very, very difficult when you play against, but more so when you play when they play at home, when they play at home or home, and it's very important. Of course, everybody will look at this game and look at it from the point of view of the 2011-2012 Champions League final. Chelsea Bayern Ekoboy at the Allianz Arena. Of course, anytime we are going to the Allianz Arena, it's a big game, especially when Chelsea have some slightest confidence when they go and play against Bayern Munich. But Bayern have shown that it's a team that you need to be very, very careful when you're playing against them. When we start the German Bundesliga season, near perfect. It's almost impeccable. And the number of goals that they've scored, the number of goals that they've conceded, it's important. Now, listen to this statistics. So the German Giants are therefore primed to continue their dominance at this stage of the competition. Now, in UT Bayern Munich have made a flying start to 2025-2025 season, winning all 5 of the matches across all competitions, including both on home soil, by an aggregate of 11-0. The German Giants are therefore primed to continue their dominance at this stage of the UCL. with no side boasting of higher win percentage than Bayern's and 73% in the group or league phase. So Bayern Airborne Champions League phase, they are a team that they are the team to beat. They are the team that you can't take anything away from them. Almost the real team to go in there and then go and beat I say the phase, seeing a competition restructured in 2003, 2004, it seems unlikely that they will suffer a slip up here, as Bayern were unbeaten in 16 successive UCL home games before losing at the Allianz Arena to Inter Milan in last season's quarterfinal. In 16 games at home at the Allianz Arena, Chalena Eddings will be Abeshe Bayern. You can't go away to Bayern to go and beat them when you go to the Allianz Arena. That plays the fortress. That's what I keep on saying. When you play in the Champions League, and match day one, put here, they get it done. You see Chelsea return to the UCL after 2 seasons of absence, having made an unbeaten start to the campaign with 2 draws and 2 wins. But they have suffered a disappointment on Saturday by conceding a late 2-2 draw to Brentford. Enzo Maresca's men have no time to lick their wounds as they leave for London in the big one. Now, this is where the interesting conversation comes in. The head-to-head, Bayern have won 3 of the last 4 head-to-heads. 4 head-to-heads, Bayern are winning with 3. The only one that Chelsea have won was in 2012 game, No, was 2005 or so thereabouts. 2012 game, it went into penalty shootout. So it was a draw at full time. I said they've lost just 1, but their only defeats coming in the penalties of the 2024-2025 season. Chelsea are unbeaten in both legs in the quarterfinal in 2019 and 2020. Chelsea were beaten 2019-2020, including a 4-1 tramping in the away leg. When I told you that was under Hansi-Dieter Flick, on my yes, Jumanima Bayern for Obabe shared Chelsea or Stamford Bridge by 4-1. Bought Chelsea 3-0. 4-1 Allianz, but bought Chelsea 3-0. So that's a strong Hansi-Dieter Flick team. Bayern have made an average of 20 shots per game across 5 matches. They attack ferociously. Bayern have scored in 36 of their last 37 UCL home games. Chelsea have lost 3 of their last 5 UCL away games without scoring. Chelsea have scored 2+ goals. 8 of their last 9 matches across all competitions. Of course, Manuel Neuer is in good form. Cole Palmer is back into the team. Jamal Musiala is going to be out of the game. Of course, Joao Pedro is going to be in there. Chelsea hardly have wished for a tougher start to the UCL campaign. So back in Bayern's free scoring attack to score over 2.5, possibly, very high, very, very high on the part of Chelsea Football Club. Charlie, the game, it's not going to be an easy one for anybody. It's not going to be easy for Chelsea. It's not also going to be easy for Bayern, for that matter as well. It's going to be a game where Chelsea know very well that they need to force the issue against Bayern Munich. Unforced issue, if Chelsea don't play head and shoulders above how they play in their matches, it is going to be difficult for them to go in and then go and win that match. They can't afford to play this game and then play it normally. Think that, they are going to get the results against them. And Enzo Maresca yesterday said it in his pre-match press conference where he spoke about the fact that it's going to be a tough one when they play away from home. It's going to be a really, really tough one when they play away from home. He spoke about the fact that Charlie, match, the way about corner, it's going to be a really, really difficult one for Enzo Maresca and the Manti. And of course, Nicolas Jackson, when Bayern call and say they want you, you don't think twice. You are simply excited and ready for them. That's exactly what Nicolas Jackson kind about when he joined them. Everything Enzo Maresca said about today's game tomorrow against Bayern. First of all, we are very happy to be there. Of course, that's exactly what he said. He's very happy to be there. He wants to go game by game. Yesterday, I told you that Maresca said, they are going to take it step by step. They won't rush anything. They'll take it step by step. Make sure game, they put themselves into it. I think that the game comes down to Chelsea's IP in possession structure and what they do with the ball in certain zones. I think that's so fun player for player. Oshe Bayern for defense now. When you play Joshua Kimmich, you play Upamecano, you play Jonathan Tah, and then you play Stanisic. This is a back for that Chelsea attackers now who believe that they can have something on, especially if they are pressing. Again, one other thing that's Bayern for the pressing man for man, I think will present opportunities to Enzo Maresca is centrally in the middle of the park. When you look at the tank of Konrad Laimer, Serge Gnabry, any Abranti Efreno, Alexander Pavlovich, or even Kimmich, I don't think as the midfielder has a lot of steel. If Chelsea have Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, normally the regimes will be shame if you want them. Chelsea would tend to have that dominance or something if they want to go into the game and then go and win. I mean, the game is going to be really, really interesting. I mean, trust me, it's going to be very, very interesting. Bayern, Barca a game. Nyame Adomochina, na Barca a game. No, on Thursday actually, and Barca a game now on Nieti, and he said Lamine Yamal is going to be absent in that game away at our Newcastle. It's going very interesting. Barcelona were really interested in signing Bruno Guimaraes for 100 million euros in 2023-2024, but the club's financial situation prevented it. Today, we are thankful that they don't need to sign him, especially after the rise of Marc Barnal and then Marc Casado. Of course, Mundo Deportivo, when he must say, Alerta Lamine, saying Lamine Yamal is not going to be present in that big game that Barca are going to play away from home against Newcastle United all time inside. I think that game is going to be an interesting one. Lamine Yamal's Publaglia started against Levante and then dragged on versus Rayo Vallecano onto the international break. Still, there are a bunch of Lamine Yamal isn't back at all. In front of sport, almost it's in top shape. Talking about a branch from Ronald Araujo and a branch your friend Robert Lewandowski. Of course, and Madrid for stayed at home and then did a job, Charlie. But that ball that led to Vini's penalty is not a penalty. Nobody can convince me that is a penalty. That ball is not a penalty. And a penalty that. But of course, Madrid for have gotten the all important win, and the next step for them is Espanyol in a Spanish La Liga. We'll see how the games are going to go on from there. Of course, other games are what Champions League in the Young Bob. So just so we can wrap it up for you here, we'll bring you some more analysis later in the day around 11:20, 11:30 thereabouts. Owen Shah will bring you up for your score. I would say game and there's going to be Olympiacos versus Pafos, Slavia Prague versus Bodo Glimt, Ajax versus Inter, Bayern Munich versus Chelsea, Liverpool versus Atletico de Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain versus Atalanta. In the Eredivisie, there is also Feyenoord versus Sittard. I think that's going to be interesting, the games that are going to go on in here. Thank you very much for choosing us. Once a big thank you to you. We'll be back with you with some more analysis later in the day. Until then, do take care. Bye-bye.